Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We'll give it another minute here while people are still signing in, and then we can begin. All right, good morning, and welcome to the Director's Desk Governance webinar. This is the second of our two-part e-governance best practice series. My name is Jack Callahan, and I lead our client success marketing programs for NASDAQ Governance Solutions. Our speakers today are Martin Chapman, our head of strategy, and Rex Hilton and Michael Hodgson, our product specialists. They will discuss key best practices for communicating sensitive information to the board between meetings, and how you can leverage our platform to limit potential exposure of confidential information. Today's webinar will last approximately 30 minutes with time afterwards for Q&A. All lines are currently muted, but you may submit your questions via the Zoom Q&A feature by clicking on the Q&A icon and typing your question in the box. This session is also being recorded and will be distributed to all registrants. So with that, I'll turn it over to Martin to get us started. Martin?
Jack, thanks so much, and thank you to everyone for your interest in this topic. This one in particular is always of great interest to our clients because of its role in communicating with board members. And some of the complexities and nuances relating to that. So thanks very much for everyone for joining. With regards to Director's Desk, I think that the value of sharing meeting materials with board and committee members via a secure solution like Director's Desk is well established. These technologies are of great convenience to board members. They provide instant access to the latest meeting materials from a mobile device anywhere, anytime. And they put an archive of corporate governance guidelines, charters, director onboarding materials, and the record of all the historical board member deliberations and decisions that are captured in minutes. All of that's available at directors' fingertips through platforms like Director's Desk. But perhaps most importantly, technologies like Director's Desk ensure the confidentiality and integrity of information shared with board members from accidental and also intentional data leakage. That's how by using the app you're able to lock that content into the applications. But also it protects against cyber threats such as data theft or the interception of communications. This is certainly the case of great concern for regulated entities. So if you're a public company where the disclosure of material non-public information can have an impact on the market value or trading price of stock. An example of that could be something relating to proposed corporate actions. That could be obviously accidentally leaked or intentionally stolen from within an app, for example. Another concern could be to do with information that's being communicated with board members that could have an impact on the stock price, such as think of recent issues, public companies or a particular large public company in the financial services sector who had a large data theft. Prior to that announcement being made public, the board would have been involved in various types of communications, crisis communications. Often during times of crisis, actually, that's when systems are put under pressure. It's very important to have a tried and tested method of communication. If, for example, you were communicating about an announcement perhaps related to a crisis of some type, and that information found its way out early because it wasn't communicated securely with board members, then that could be a great concern. So having a tool in place, a process in place for communicating with the board during times of crisis is particularly important. In addition to regulated public companies who have these rules in place, other organizations such as hospitals, healthcare organizations, where meeting materials may include personally identifiable information or potentially something relating to medical records, it's important that those are protected. And other highly regulated industries too, such as financial services, so non-public financial service companies, energy organizations that are perhaps regulated at state level, or and pharmaceutical companies. So there are many regulators, not just so SEC, who will be interested in how you're communicating with the board and ensuring that information is kept confidential. One of the key things also is as to why using something in Director's Desk to securely communicate with board members is important, is not just the papers for the materials for board meetings, but also communication in the run-up or prior or after a meeting and in between meetings, etc. is in managing records retention practices relating to those materials, or any materials or any communications that go to board members, and also in the use of Director's Desk to help manage processes for e-discovery in the event of a litigation hold. And probably thirdly as well, people are generally very aware of cyber threats, other types of IT security risks. But what is also of great importance to our clients that we hear on a very, very regular occasion is the less obvious risks that email communication can pose. So, for example, board members often use email accounts that are external to the control of your organization. This is incredibly common. They're not necessarily on the corporate network. That is incredibly common. They're independent board members. They're not employees. So they don't have accounts on your corporate network. And those accounts the email accounts that are used by external board members could be Gmail, Outlook. It could also be the email address or the email system of another company or organization they work for. I just want to sort of highlight a couple of the issues with that. So let's say, for example, a director serves on your board, but they are also the CFO of a private company. Well, in that scenario, they will probably have an email account for that private company. And emails that are sent to that private company, to that CFO using their private company email address, those could be accessible by people at that company. The IT staff, for example, who manage the system, have underlying access to that. Another concern, of course, that in relation to the use of these external email accounts is the concern of litigation. So if, for example, that CFO, if there was a litigation matter or that CFO was involved in perhaps a litigation hold had been issued, they were anticipating some legal action, then access to that CFO's email account may be required so that they can gather relevant documentation. At that point, your communications with that board member could then be exposed or made available to other people, not just necessarily the IT team, but it could also be in relation to the legal team of that company. And of course, this has absolutely, the emails that you're sending are not the scope of this e-discovery process, but they would nonetheless potentially be reviewed by individuals. So it's very important to try and think about that impact as well. And it's one of the less known, less obvious considerations. So during the course of this webinar, we'll illustrate how you can use Director's Desk to protect against these risks by communicating securely through Director's Desk. I'm about to hand over to my colleague Rex, who's going to run through some of the common use cases and workflows. And if you do have any questions with regards to the matters that I've raised, please do feel free to type them into the Q&A window in the Zoom system we're using. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll be very happy to answer them there. We'll also have a Q&A session at the end. So with that, I'll pass over to Rex. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Martin. As Martin has shared with you, there are a lot of reasons why you might want to start using Director's Desk for your communication with the board. We are finding more and more that our customers have implemented a policy that all of their communications with the board should take place through Director's Desk. Today, I'm going to share with you some examples of the type of information you can communicate, some best practices, and then my colleague Mike will walk you through some of how you can send messages and use the communication tools of the portal. So the first and probably most obvious example of where you would communicate with the board is notifying the board and the committee members that meeting materials are now available for them to begin reviewing in the portal. Most of you are probably already doing so, but I want to make sure that you're aware of this functionality. The advantages of doing so from your portal is that the message includes a link that takes them directly to the portal on their mobile app or in their browser. When they log in, they immediately see the message. And I like to say that within 3 clicks, they're logged into the app or into their browser and seeing their meeting materials. One, they click on the link in their email. They either click on the fingerprint or Touch ID or facial recognition on their iPads. And with another click, they're in the meeting book from your message once they have logged in. So very, very quickly after receiving notification, they're straight into the meeting and they'll be able to concentrate on matters in hand. A second example would be confidential matters. Communication with the board in between meetings about a confidential matter renders a need for a secure method of communicating. Whether you're sending dividend announcements to the board prior to an earnings call, or your company experiences a crisis and has to go into crisis management mode, you need a way to securely communicate with your board so information is not leaked. Another instance requiring secure communication might be a lawsuit against your company, or on a more positive note, a strategic decision about the company, such as an acquisition or merger. All of these examples should be communicated in a secure fashion. Another example might be CEO letters. So with CEO letters, when the CEO sends their letters to the board, this can be done via the board portal. Some CEOs send a letter monthly to the board, and these may contain confidential information that should be maintained in a secure manner and also logged. Fourth example might be company information. It's perhaps less reliant on security, but nonetheless, it's a good practice to keep all of the information that you share with the board in one place for them. You might share company information with the board in between meetings, for example, press releases or news articles. And in this example, it's a good practice to store this kind of information in the portal and then use the portal to notify the board that it's there. You can include attached documents or links to external websites. And the advantage of doing this is that it keeps the board informed about what is happening at the company. It also keeps the information that you want to share with the board in one place, and it keeps the board accessing the portal on a more regular basis. This way, they become more proficient in it. They remember their passwords, which I'm sure you've all experienced, can be sometimes a challenge. And also, they begin to think of the portal as the place to go for anything related to your company, with all of the inherent benefits that that brings. If you're not using your board portal for communication, then you're probably using email. And there are several challenges with this. The first, and arguably the most important challenge with using email, is that it is not secure. The meeting materials, CEO letters, any documents that are confidential that are sent over email can land in board members' Gmail accounts. We all have board members whose primary email account is either Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or AOL, and these are not secure applications. Your confidential documents are sitting on these email providers' servers indefinitely. Additionally, they can always then save these documents onto their desktop or iPad, which you may not necessarily want either. The second challenge is the inability for the board member to find your email. They are inundated with hundreds of emails per day, and those who are still working at a C-level, executive level, receive even more. So having to filter through their emails to locate yours is often a challenge. Some of your older board members may not even know how to search their emails, or they may not know what keyword to search for. The third challenge is similar to the second in that when you email materials, they cannot locate those materials. They have to find the email first, or if they have saved the documents, they do not know where they saved them and will have trouble locating them. So using email basically has its challenges, which is why we want you to encourage your users to use your portal as your main form of communication with the board. To address these challenges, we believe that secure communication is a best practice and that all communication with your board should be done through your board portal. So how do you incorporate it? Well, one, you'd make it a policy with your board. Two, with the increase in cybercrime targeted at the highest level in your organization, it has become more and more important for you to protect your confidential information. Cybersecurity is becoming a top priority for them. So incorporate this into your process. Include it in your documentation. In our step-by-step guides, it is noted that after you build your board materials that you send the notification. Or after you upload a document that you want to share, send a notification of that. If there is an email that needs to go out to the board, make it a part of your process only to use the portal and to notify via the portal. The third obvious advantage is to use your distribution groups. The board and every committee and director's desk has a distribution group. These groups serve dual purposes in your portal. One, they serve as the groups you use to set permissions on your documents and folders. And two, they can be used as email distribution groups when sending your messages. These are already set up. Make sure and use them to streamline your process when sending messages. Fourth one, any files that you want to include in your email, you can add directly and securely as attachments to your email. This will help the board members to locate the documents easily rather than having to search through their Gmail inboxes or attempt to locate files on shared drives or SharePoints. Finally, copy yourself and any other portal administrators on the message so you know it has gone out. So here we have designed the following workflow to walk you through how you can compose a message in your portal. The blue boxes I have included indicate what you will do from an administrator's perspective, and the purple boxes indicate what a director will experience. So for the first thing, when composing a message, you would want to initiate it from the email module. You would click on the Compose button, and the window will open. Select your recipients from the list of groups and users, type your subject, type your message. If this is a confidential email, the secure option checkbox is selected by default, meaning that all of the subject line, message, and any attachments are masked, and they will not be revealed in the contents of any of your emails that go out to their direct emails. Alternatively, if you'd like to reveal the subject line, you can uncheck the secure option, which will only reveal the subject line in the notification email. Once you're ready, click Send to send it. It will operate similarly to your regular email application. Your users will receive a notification and they will log back into the director's desk in order to retrieve it. We always maintain a record of all messages sent and received, so you can always go back to it if you would like to verify who you sent it to. And if you want to ensure it has gone out, we often recommend that you include yourself or the portal administrator group as a recipient. Additionally, your administrator may implement retention limits for emails if your industry dictates board communication time limits. So on the receiving end, your directors will receive a notification in the general email application. They can then simply click on the link within that email, which directs them to authenticate into either the app or their browser, depending on which device they're using, and then they'll land directly in your message. They can then review the message, open any attached files. They also have the option to reply, forward, or delete the message. If the message is not secure, they can read the subject of your message in their email application. And if you have attached a file, they again click on the link to authenticate into Director's Desk, and they'll then be able to review it. So the next workflow is the workflow for announcing a document or meeting. Similar to the email workflow, we have designed the following workflow to walk you through the process of sending a notification for meetings and or meeting materials and any documents in your document repository. After walking you through this process, I'll hand it over to Mike, and he'll demonstrate how to compose these announcements directly in his portal. So within the calendar or documents module, when you have published your board book or whenever you've uploaded a document that you want to share securely, you can simply choose to use the announce option. The announcement window will open, allowing you to review your recipients from an existing list of groups and users. You can then leverage your groups or the individual users to send to them. You will type in your subject, or if in the case of a meeting, you'll leave the default message. In the case of notifying your recipients of meeting materials being ready, you might type something like, the June 14th board meeting materials are available, and then you will move on to the message. You could leave that at the default, or you might say something like, dear board members, the draft materials for the June 14th board meeting are now available in Director's Desk. Please click on the link below to access them. Then you simply click send, just as you would when sending a regular email. On the receiving end, the director will receive that notification either via email or can tap on the link in their browser, in their app, and it will take them directly to the login page on the app or browser, where they can use the Touch ID on their app or Face ID to authenticate in. And once they have logged in, they'll land in the calendar or the document center, and it is a very streamlined process for them. So those are the descriptions of the workflow. Obviously, a lot of that is hard to see without a visual. So at this point, I'm now going to pass it over to my colleague, Mike, who will show you how to do it in his portal or your portals.
Thanks, Rex. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. And first and foremost, what I'm going to do is click on the email module. And then bottom left-hand side under Actions, I'm going to select Compose Message. First and foremost, I'm going to add the recipients to my email. I'm going to filter this by one of the boards and committees that have been set up within the system. For this one, I'm going to choose Board of Directors, and I'm going to click Add Group. And at the bottom right-hand corner, Save Recipients. Next, I'm going to fill out a subject and a message body. And last but not least, I'm also going to attach a file, and I'm simply just going to drag and drop at the bottom right-hand corner, Upload Document. And as Rex had mentioned, I'm going to keep this subject line secure. So as long as that is selected, the subject line will not show in the external email notification. I'm going to select Send Message, and I'll get a final confirmation letting me know the email was successfully sent. Now, to go to my iPad, I'm going to show you what the board member will experience when they've received the notification here. Going to go to my email, going to select the notification I just received. It's going to ask for a final confirmation to open the Director's Desk application. I'm going to authenticate into the platform. It will bring me right to my email where I'm going to download the attachment. And once it's downloaded, I can view it. And I'm going to select back once I've finished reading. In the upper right-hand corner, directors have the option to write a new email, reply, reply all, forward. And that completes the email notification. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to announce a meeting book. And now we are back to the web-based version of Director's Desk. And what I'm going to do for this notification is I'm going to click in the meeting that I wish to announce. And what I'm going to do is select the Announce Meeting option. I'm going to keep the recipient list as is that filters in from the attendees. This also provides a templated subject line and message. These are, unlike the email, these are viewable in the external email notification. Going to select Announce Now. And now to move it back to the board member experience, I'm going to go to my email. And here's the external email notification I'd received. Going to click into the app. And here you get inputted right into your meeting book, where you can download the meeting book and view it as you so choose. And that completes the demonstration of the both the email notification as well as the meeting book notification. I'm going to pass this back to Rex now, where we'll accept some questions from everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Jack, do we have any questions incoming so far?
Yeah, we have quite a few. So the first one we've received is to add the email option. Is that an additional cost to users' license for Director's Desk?
No, the email module is included with the base subscription of the Director's Desk platform.
Great, thanks. Next question is it possible to send one email to board and committee members with all board and committee materials for a meeting?
Yes. When you set up multiple versions of a meeting book, you can announce it in one blanketed email, and that's going to give everybody the corresponding level of access that you have set up in the versions.
Thanks, Mike. Sorry, there's another question. It says, for the board member experience, are board members able to edit or request suggestions for board meetings topics after the schedule is presented?
Yes, via the email module. They can reply back to anybody that's written to them. They have full free range of board communication through the secure platform.
Perfect, thanks. Next question is, how does a board member create an email within Director's Desk?
The board member can create the email exactly as I just shown. There's no kind of administrative access, unlike some of the other modules within Director's Desk. So exactly how I demonstrated it both on the web-based version as well as the iPad application, board members can send emails to one another via those same methods.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, what do recipients see in the email subject line when the secure box is checked off?
So when the secure message is selected, that means it's not viewable in the external email. And then when they do deselect it, just the subject line is included within the external email notification. It's just an additional line in that external email notification that I demonstrated earlier.
Great. Next question is, can you send an email to someone who is not included in the distribution group or on the Director's Desk portal? In other words, do you need to add someone onto the portal to email them?
Hi, Mike. I'll take this one. So by design, the emails are restricted only to members of the portal. This is for security and confidentiality reasons. Obviously, if you want to incorporate someone in that should be privy to that information, the design of the portal is such that we just want to restrict it to board members or other staff members that have access to the portal. So that kind of communication is not encouraged. In fact, the portal is designed specifically to avoid external communication in these types of instances. Thank you for that one.
Perfect, thanks, Rex. Looks like we have one more question. Can board members share documents with each other? And it's two parts. So the second part of that is, can they store documents in the portal outside of their inbox or briefcase?
So when information is sent via email, or when an attachment is sent via email, that resides in the email module of Director's Desk, and they can review and they can send back and forth. Obviously, while they're reviewing, that particular attachment will be open in a separate window, so they'll still be able to refer back and forth between it. As far as that information being stored within the portal, that would be up to the individual users to send to their corporate secretary or one of the admins, and at that point they could then store it in the document center. But obviously we don't want every user to be able to do that. There is also another role available to users called the content contributor role, which does allow them to upload directly into the document center. However, that one is fully curated, and it requires the approval of the corporate secretary in order for that document to become visible to other members of the Directors Desk portal.
Awesome. Thank you, Rex. Actually, it looks like we have one final question, and then we'll wrap things up. So how can emails be wiped/deleted so we keep with our retention policies? Can it be automated, or would I, as an administrator, do it manually?
Good question. Thank you, Jack. So the answer to that one is we do have a whole raft of retention policies that can be applied to all of the different modules, and one of those is emails. So if you have if your regulatory body for your industry requires you to delete emails after a specific period of time, then we can set that up. So it can be set up that they will be removed within a month, within 6 months, within a year, within 7 years, whatever that particular piece of regulation may be that applies to your industry, we can do that in the background for you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rex, Mike, and Martin, for all of your help. And thank you, everyone, for staying a few minutes late with us. That concludes the Director's Desk webinar session. As a reminder, it has been recorded, and a replay will be provided to all registrants. In addition, we will be sure to include the presentation and all the questions that we have received. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions you may have. Have a great rest of your day.